first, I didn't believe it either. But the gods of Olympus are real.
Hey, movie, if you're gonna have Percy narrating, could you at least put in the work to capture his narrative voice from the books? I'd love to hear Logan Lerman musing about what kind of algae he'd be turned into if he ever gets himself killed like Thalia.
Go, Luke!
All four kids in this scene look to be about the same age, which is wrong. Luke was 14, Thalia 12, and Annabeth 7. Grover, meanwhile, was 23, but satyrs age at half the rate of humans, so he should also look around 12 years old.
And so, as Thalia lay dying, her father Zeus found another way for her to live. A way for all half-bloods to live. A gift to ensure no one in Camp Half-Blood would die the same way. The barrier, to protect them from those who lived for their death.
The magical border around Camp Half-Blood actually predates Thalia's tree. All the tree did was strengthen it.
And her tree protects my home. But not always my head.
The movie proper begins with Percy already at Camp Half-Blood, but the book begins with his last day of school at Merryweather Prep, where he plays flaming dodgeball with Canadian cannibal giants.
Oh, how nice of you to show up just to watch me win.
You know, everything they say about you is wrong, Clarice. You actually do have a sense of humor.
This is nothing like the dynamic Percy and Clarice have in the books. In fact, Clarice is basically a stereotypical schoolyard bully. She even tried to give Percy a swirly once. Also, that's not what Clarice looks like. She's supposed to be buff and should be wearing a camouflage jacket.
Oh, there goes another one.
Oh, Percy!
Hey, look at that, Annabeth is finally blonde. Not only that, but she's blonde in the flashback sequences too. Okay, movie, you get a sin-off for this. Don't get used to it though.
I got 50 drachma on you!
Remember in the last video when I said, also, after getting a searcher's license, Grover left camp to seek out Pan, leading into the events of the next story. Yeah, well, this is what I meant by that. In the book, Grover was missing from the start, having gotten captured by Polyphemus while looking for Pan.
It was one transgression, one. With a naiad, for the sake of Olympus.
I think you mean dryad, Mr. D. Naiads are freshwater nymphs, and you were punished for chasing a wood nymph. Dionysus is forbidden from drinking at camp, but it's not enforced in this way. The only time we ever see Mr. D try to drink wine, he turns it into Diet Coke himself when Chiron politely reminds him of his restrictions. Is this supposed to be the climbing wall? If it is, then it's way off. The actual Camp Half-Blood climbing wall is two facing walls that shake violently, drop boulders, spray lava, and clash together if you don't get to the top fast enough. Seriously, who looked at that passage and decided not to include it in the movie? That sounds awesome!
Darius, grab my hand!
Who's Terius? Because he's not a character in the books. You know how I just said that Clarice is something of a schoolyard bully in the books? Yeah, well, it's for precisely that reason that most other campers don't like Clarice or any of the Ares kids. This eventually comes to a head in the 5th book, where she pulls an Achilles and refuses to fight in the Titan War because she's sick of not being respected.
That first quest you went on. Beginner's luck, wasn't it? Clarice, he saved Olympus. That's more than you've ever done.
Yeah, Annabeth has the right idea here. One quest is all most campers ever get, if that. The idea that being a one-quest wonder is some kind of embarrassment is, frankly, absurd.
You recovered Ares' stolen chariot.
No, actually, that was Clarice.
No, that was both of you. Also, the timeline isn't clear, but I'm pretty sure that isn't supposed to have happened yet, considering that story ends with Percy calling Clarice his friend.
Okay, what about the fall tournament? You own that sucker. The Solstice Games,
And these quests just straight up never happened at all.
the Bronze Dragon's quest?
No, Clarice had nothing to do with that one. That quest was Percy, Annabeth, Charles Beckendorf, and Selena Beauregard. And this one definitely hasn't happened yet because that takes place after the Battle of the Labyrinth.
Look, I have a very important task to entrust you with.
You do?
You'll need this.
This isn't really Mr. D's MO. He'd probably just threaten to turn Percy into a dolphin if he didn't rake the amphitheater.
Maybe I only stopped Luke from destroying Olympus because I had Annabeth and Grover helping me, right?
This whole insecurity plot Percy has going on is entirely made up for the movie. Book Percy is more than happy to admit he wouldn't have been able to do anything without his friends. This is apparently supposed to be the big house, but it's missing the wraparound porch and it should be baby blue with white trim.
I think the point is, since Perry.
Don't say.
It means he's most likely a godspawn.
Hey Chiron, all Cyclopes are god spawn. The elder Cyclopes were children of Uranus and Gaia, the primordial gods of the sky and the earth respectively, and the rest are all children of Poseidon. So no, Tyson couldn't just cross the border simply because he's the son of a god. He was blocked by the border until Annabeth gave him permission to cross.
Yeah, but the spawn of which god?
I know. Poseidon.
Tyson wasn't the one to reveal himself as a son of Poseidon. Poseidon claimed him in front of the entire camp, just as he did with Percy.
As you know, you are believed to be Poseidon's only heir.
What are you talking about, Chiron? Percy is Poseidon's only living demigod child, but he's far from the only living son of Poseidon. If we're counting Cyclopes alone, there are dozens, if not hundreds of them, including Polyphemus. And what about Poseidon's actual heir, Triton?
I don't get it. If this new kid's not half human, then what other half is he?
Nymph. Sea nymph? And when you cross a deity with a nymph, you get...
Not every god-nymph pairing makes a Cyclops. In fact, one such pairing gave us Hermes, one of the 12 Olympians.
You
It's a Gewürztraminer. Just don't. Hi. Hi, brother.
This is not how Percy met Tyson. They met at Merryweather Prep, and Percy didn't even realize he was a Cyclops until they arrived at camp because of the mist. Also, this is not how Tyson looks. He's supposed to be freakishly big and tall, with a misshapen face, crooked teeth, tattered clothes, and scars all over his body. Also, his eye is supposed to be brown, not blue.
Is this supposed to be some kind of joke? I mean, a half-brother, Cyclops? Come on. Well, I think the politically correct term is ocularly impaired.
Do I really need to say it? Is there any doubt that this idiotic joke has no basis in the book? Well, too late now. Just ding the ding and get on with it.
I was upstate, the woods. One day, this trident shows up over my head. And then it started moving south.
And you followed it. You followed it here.
No, Tyson lived in a refrigerator box in a Manhattan alleyway. He attended Merryweather Prep as a charity project and followed Percy to camp after the dodgeball game. Later, Poseidon made a glowing trident appear over Tyson's head to claim him as a son.
You should really get him some sprayable mist. Anyway, it is kind of interesting timing, don't you think?
Tyson never wore sunglasses in the book. As much as the insults hurt him, he never felt the need to hide his appearance from anyone.
Smells like bull.
Cyclopes can actually smell monsters. I'm honestly amazed that they thought to include a detail like that.
Hey, Chris, you coming?
No, I'm good.
Chris Rodriguez was not at camp this year. He'd left with Luke the year before. The Colchis Bulls were already attacking the camp when Percy got back from Merryweather Prep. Also, the campers actually had an organized defense because the barrier had already been failing beforehand. Also, there were 2 Colchis Bulls, not just one. I think the director watched too many Transformers films before making this scene, because the Bulls did none of these things in the book.
Percy, distract it from me.
Percy didn't play Matador to distract the Colchis Bulls. He actually tried to fight them. Hey Annabeth, maybe that would have worked better if you'd stabbed that spear through its leg, pinning it to the ground. I mean, that's how Clarice defeated one of the bulls in the book. Clarice touches the Colchis Bull for quite a long time, but doesn't show any signs of getting burned.
Bad bull.
Hey, can we get a retake? That line needs more emotion considering it was written in all caps with an exclamation point. Also, it's supposed to be bad cow. Also, this is the part where Tyson caves in the bull's face with just 2 punches. Also, it was Percy that he stopped the bull from charging, not Clarice. No battering rams were used against either of the Colchis Bulls. nor any grappling hooks. It was all swords, spears, and in Tyson's case, bare hands. As cool as this visual is, this isn't how either of the Colchis bulls were defeated. As I alluded to before, Tyson defeated one by caving its head in, and the other one was defeated by Clarice pinning its hind leg.
Maybe next time you try to drown someone, you'll first make sure he's not a demigod who can swim.
This confrontation never happened. Everything in this scene either happened when they met on the Princess Andromeda, or it just didn't happen at all.
You don't know.
Hang on a minute, did they give Luke a scar in this movie? It's so faint I can barely tell, which kind of defeats the purpose. Luke's scar was super gnarly in the book, thick and white, running from just beneath his eye to his jaw.
Think about it.
These teleporting medallions did not exist in the books. Weirdly enough, Luke actually did teleport away from Percy when leaving camp at the end of The Lightning Thief, but he did it by slashing the air with Backbiter, not using a green medallion.
How did the bull get through the barrier?
Oh my god.
As I alluded to earlier, Thalia's tree had already been poisoned and started dying before Percy and Annabeth got back to camp.
Luke poisoned the tree.
While Percy was confident that Luke was the one who poisoned Thalia's tree because, you know, it was kind of the obvious conclusion, he didn't have any proof of it until the end, when he tricked Luke into confessing his crime to everyone at camp through an iris message. As a result of this, Chiron got blamed for poisoning the tree and lost his job as activities director.
Without the tree's barrier, probably figures there's enough demi-titans out there to get him what he wants.
What the f*** is a demi-titan? That term never comes up in the books once. If you're just talking about monsters, you should have just said monsters. That's all they're ever called in the books.
Like you said, I've been pretty unexceptional lately.
What? Chiron would never call one of his students unexceptional.
Necklace of Harmonia, Hercules' bow.
Annabeth, put that tablet away. You'll attract monsters, and with the border failing, that's the last thing you want. Besides, you're smart enough, you should be able to figure out on your own that the Golden Fleece is what you need. I know this because that's what you did in the book.
I was hoping to spare you this onus a little while longer, but go inside, upstairs to the attic. When you come back down, we'll talk some more. Assuming you're still sane, that is.
Percy only went to see this oracle once, and that was in the first book.
I'm the spirit of Delphi, speaker of the prophecies of Phoebus Apollo, slayer of the mighty Python. Approach, seeker, and ask.
Hang on a second. Is that verbatim dialogue from the book? I am the spirit of Delphi, speaker of the prophecies of Phoebus Apollo, slayer of the mighty Python. Approach, seeker, and ask. Holy it is! I mean, it's the wrong book, but I'll still take it.
But before you learn the future, know first the past.
Yeah, no. The Oracle does not give historical context for her prophecies. If you don't have enough background info to know what the prophecy means, that's your problem.
Led by Kronos, a force so evil he devoured his own children.
Kronos didn't eat his children out of pure sadism. He feared the day his children would inherit the Earth, so he ate them to prevent that from happening.
The three of his sons escaped: Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon.
No, only Zeus escaped. Poseidon and Hades were both eaten. Zeus had to set them free later on by feeding Kronos an emetic made from mustard and wine. Neither Poseidon nor Hades used swords against Kronos. Poseidon only ever used his trident against Kronos, and the only weapon Hades had prior to the Second Titan War was a bident, unless you count his Helm of Darkness as a weapon.
They destroyed Kronos and banished his remains to the depths of Tartarus.
Not on their own. They had help from their sisters, Hestia, Demeter, and Hera, who were also freed by Zeus.
But Kronos is fated to rise again, to exact his vengeance on Olympus.
The Oracle does not tell the future in straightforward prose. She only gives prophecies in the form of cryptic poetry.
It all begins when two cousins grapple for a fleece. the son of the sea and a lightning thief.
No, it doesn't. No prophecy begins that way.
And that half-blood of the eldest gods.
No, it's a half-blood of the eldest gods. That is an important distinction, because saying that half-blood of the eldest gods makes it very explicitly a reference to the son of the sea mentioned in the previous line, which can only be Percy. The prophecy from the books was ambiguous, and left it open for any living kid of the big three to fill the role, including Thalia.
Shall reach 20 against all odds.
You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm taking a sin off for changing the age in the prophecy. Because as much as I think aging up the cast was a bad move, I never understood people claiming it broke the great prophecy. Even as a kid, I thought this was the obvious solution.
The evil soul, cursed blade shall reap.
And I'm giving that sin right back. It's the hero's soul, cursed blade shall reap. I don't need to explain the significance of that change, right?
A single choice shall end his days, Olympus to preserve or raise.
And that was the great prophecy. A prophecy which Percy, and thus the audience, is forbidden from hearing until the 5th book.
And that is raise with a Z, as in destroy, I asked.
The Oracle doesn't take follow-up questions. Trust me, Percy tried in the 1st book. Once a prophecy has been given, the Oracle stops talking.
It's absolutely out of the question.
You could just listen to me for one moment.
I am listening.
Annabeth did not approach Mr. D privately with the idea to seek out the Golden Fleece for pretty much this exact reason. She and Percy conspired to put forward the idea at the campfire, so the rest of the campers would pressure Tantalus into assigning the quest. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. After Chiron was fired as activities director, he was replaced with Tantalus. Yes, that Tantalus. The one the gods cast into Tartarus for murdering his son and serving him for dinner? Perfect man for the job, I'm sure you'll agree. But hey, at least seeing his food running away from him was kinda funny.
I'm surprised you want to go along with her on this, Mr. Undershirt.
Underwood.
Whatever. I mean, every satyr who has ever gone after the fleece has died.
I think you're a little confused, Mr. D. It wasn't the Golden Fleece that those satyrs were looking for, it was Pan, the long-lost god of the wild. But because the fleece had such a strong aura of nature magic, the satyrs looking for him were attracted to it, thinking they were sensing Pan.
Right? I mentioned that to her. But it's a risk I'm willing to take for the good of the camp.
Who the are you, because you are not Grover Underwood? Say what you will about Grover from the books, but one thing you can't deny is that he is brave. Even the Council of Cloven Elders had to admit that when granting him his searcher's license. Brave to the point of indigestion, horns and whiskers above anything we have seen in the past. Bear in mind, one of these Cloven Elders was Silenus, the satyr who raised Dionysus back when he was a child, meaning he's been around for millennia. The real Grover Underwood didn't care that every satyr that went looking for Pan had died. He was eager to join the search the first chance he got. This is nothing short of insulting and deserves 10 sins.
Look, the last I heard, the Golden Fleece was in the Sea of Monsters.
Wait a minute, how do you know that? In the book, Grover sends a telepathic message to Percy telling him that he found the fleece in the Sea of Monsters, and that's how they knew where to look for it. But here, Mr. D just knows with no explanation. Did the satyrs just tell you they were going to the Sea of Monsters before dying?
It's a terrible idea.
I've had a grand idea.
Neither Dionysus nor Tantalus took credit for the fleece quest idea. Dionysus wasn't involved in the decision at all, and Tantalus was absolutely against it. Again, the campers had to pressure him into authorizing the quest. Also, are we just not doing the chariot races then? That was a pretty big part of the book to just cut out completely. No? Okay.
Don't worry, camp will be okay. You gotta have faith, right?
This should be the other way around. Tyson should be bursting into tears at the idea of more monsters storming the camp, with Percy reassuring him that everything will be alright, even if he doesn't believe it himself.
Now, a satyr is naturally drawn, as you know, to the power of the fleece, and therefore it must be a satyr who will guide Half-Blood on this quest.
I guess if you want to get technical, Percy only learned the fleece's location from Grover's message, but by the time of the campfire scene, the fleece's location was known down to the arcsecond, so there was no need for a satyr guide.
Ignite!
Who? The books never mentioned a satyr named Ignite.
As to who that champion might be, our plight calls for only our finest hero. Clarice! Clarice!
Only the Ares kids were cheering when Clarice was chosen. In fact, the Athena kids were actively booing her in support of Annabeth. Again, people don't generally like Clarice.
Her naming gets right.
Admittedly, Mr. D never directly addresses Clarice on page, so we don't know if he does or doesn't get her name right. But based on the fact that Mr. D openly says he couldn't care less about the Ares cabin being reigning Capture the Flag champions in the first book, I don't think he has any favoritism towards Clarice. That was more of a Tantalus thing. He liked Clarice because she impressed him at the chariot race. In fact, come to think of it, everything Mr. D does in the scene was either made up for the movie or done by Tantalus in the book. And that wine curse... Wait, is the movie trying to turn Mr. D into Tantalus?
Hey, Clarice, listen, Luke is still out there. He's involved with the fleece somehow, and I've got a feeling that he's not done yet.
Really? 'Cause I've got a feeling that I don't really care.
This is kind of a fusion of two exchanges. During the campfire scene, Percy voiced his misgivings about Clarice getting the quest in front of the whole camp, only for the Ares campers to shut him down by saying, "You had your turn." Later on Clarice's ship, Annabeth warns Clarice about what Luke said on the Princess Andromeda, but Clarice shut her down because she didn't want anyone stealing her thunder.
Guess you don't have any answers either, Dad. I mean, this was your sword.
This isn't necessarily false. Poseidon did own the sword before Percy, but it's a little misleading. Tell you what, have a half-sin. Hey, that's the Greek name given for the sword in the book. Not only that, but it's rendered correctly in the Greek alphabet.
This is a bad idea.
You don't even know what I was gonna say.
You were going to say that you're going after the fleece to save the camp.
Actually, he was gonna say we were.
Sneaking out to go after the fleece was not planned this far in advance. It was more of a spur-of-the-moment thing.
But Inuit and Clarice are already going after the fleece, and it's not cool to bogart on someone else's quest.
I think this is my quest, too.
The Oracle says he wrestles Luke for the fleece.
Grapples.
This is not why Percy wanted to go on the quest. He wanted to go on the quest because Grover was in danger.
Okay, so how are we gonna get past them?
They did not need to go past the border guards. They left by sea.
So, I think we're cool as long as we stay quiet.
Sorry.
Tyson did not carry a bag full of whatever's making that sound. Like, genuinely, I don't know what's in that bag. The movie never says. The closest thing he had to this was the oilcloth full of parts he was tinkering with, but he kept that in his pocket, and it never made a noticeable sound.
The fleece is guarded by Polyphemus.
Seriously, how do you know that? The only reason anyone knew Polyphemus had the fleece in the book was, again, because of Grover's telepathic message. At least with Mr. D, you could make the argument that the satyrs told people they could sense the fleece in the Sea of Monsters. But how the did word that Polyphemus has the Golden Fleece even get off his island, let alone to a random Cyclops living in the woods of upstate New York?
No, you can't because I'm not going with the Cyclops.
Believe it or not, the movie seriously downplays Annabeth's hatred of Cyclopes and the wedge it drives between her and Percy. Annabeth was hostile towards Tyson from the start, even breaking off her friendship with Percy while working on their racing chariot when he confronted her about her behavior.
Okay, fine. Keep it down. This is crazy hard to come by, and I only brought it along in case of emergency, which I guess this is an emergency, so... here.
Mist?
It makes the mystical look normal.
Side effects may include handsomeness, headache, self-esteem, and low self-esteem.
And just know that if the camp wasn't in danger, I wouldn't be wasting this on you.
Wasting what? Oh!
It's not gonna last forever. You're gonna have to reapply it.
This is not at all how Mist works. Mist is automatically created whenever supernatural entities come into contact with the mortal world. It's not rare, it doesn't need to be manually applied, it's just always there.
Over here.
Annie, hey!
That's not how you summon the Chariot of Damnation. You need to call out for it in ancient Greek and toss a gold drachma onto the pavement, where the cab will rise from the asphalt. Also, like I said before, they left camp by sea, not by land. The Chariot of Damnation is what brought Annabeth, Percy, and Tyson to camp after the attack at Meriwether Prep.
Excuse me, we're trying to get to Florida.
The Chariot of Damnation only serves Greater New York and the surrounding communities. They wouldn't be able to bring them that far.
Oh, hey there, this is Ganymede, cupbearer to Zeus.
The Buckle Up PSA from Ganymede was a voice recording, not a video. Also, that isn't what Ganymede looks like. This is. Yes, I know Chalice of the Gods came out a decade after this movie, but this is what happens when you get ahead of yourself when adapting an ongoing book series.
Maybe we should have flown commercial.
Absolutely not. That no flying rule that I mentioned in the last video remains in effect for the entire series. The only exception is that Percy is allowed to ride Pegasi, since those are also descendants of Poseidon, and thus considered a sort of neutral territory. You know what? This whole sequence is pretty well adapted. It has some sins, but I think it's about on par with the Lotus Casino scene from the first movie. So as much as it pains me, I will be removing 5 sins.
I think we're a little short on drachmas.
This did not happen. The cab took them all the way to camp with no interruptions.
That was a no.
Awesome! Can we go again?
Tyson did not think the cab ride was awesome. In fact, it gave him some pretty horrible car sickness.
I think we're in Olympus. Hail to you, great Zeus. Forgive our trespass on Olympus.
Hey,
We're seeking transport to Florida. Zeus? Zeus?
Oh, whoa.
Zeus!
Stop it. This isn't Olympus, okay? This is the Capitol building. We're in Washington, D.C., okay?
As funny as this exchange is, it didn't happen in the book. In fact, they never stopped in DC at all. The closest they got was a swamp in Virginia, where they encountered the Hydra.
Looks like Olympus.
Right down to the dudes with power who only care about themselves.
At no point in any of the books has any character used an ATM to get drachmas.
Oh, hey there, valued half-blood account holder.
Okay, this Ganymede ad was made up entirely for the movie.
Can I get 450 half-calf no-whip lattes? And an extra shot of nectar.
Whoa, Grover, are you trying to get everybody killed? Demigods can drink small amounts of nectar as medicine, but only demigods, and only as medicine. Otherwise, it'll instantly incinerate you.
Hecatonchery.
What's a hecatonchery doing in a coffee shop? They're all supposed to be either guarding Tartarus, imprisoned in Alcatraz depending on the timeline, or dead. Also, it's hecatonchery, not hecatonchery. Yes, they actually spell it like this in the credits. Also, why does he only have 8 arms? Hecatoncheries have 100 hands. Their name literally means 100-handed ones. Also, why isn't Tyson fawning over this guy? Tyson idolizes the Hecatoncheries, as we learn in the Battle of the Labyrinth when he meets Briareus. This is not how Grover was separated from the party. As I've alluded to repeatedly, he was taken by Polyphemus before the story even began.
Was that Chris Rodriguez?
Chris Rodriguez hadn't been seen as part of Luke's army until they spotted him on the Princess Andromeda.
If we're gonna get Grover back, we need to find Luke.
Finding Luke was never part of the quest. At least, it wasn't something they set out to do.
You wanna find Luke? His dad will know where he is.
Hermes was never associated with UPS. If anything, his work outfit is more evocative of the US Postal Service with the pith helmet. And you know the rule for changes born out of product placement. Also, Hermes approached Percy, not vice versa. Percy was on the beach, thinking about what to do, when Hermes showed up and encouraged him to go on the quest.
His son's name is Lucas Stellan. Oh, what has that wayward boy of mine gotten himself into now?
Hermes knew full well what Luke was up to. That's why he approached Percy in the first place.
Take it slow.
Oh, come on! Give me a break!
Yeah, easy for you to say, Your Eminence.
Oh, actually, Martha, it's not easy for him. He's the god of freaking speed.
Well, except he's not the one whose butt is stuck to a big silver stick forever.
George and Martha are shown having distinct colors, but in the book they're both green. Also, we only ever see the caduceus in staff form, but in the book it's shown turning into a cell phone with the snakes around the antenna, because cell phones still had external antennas back then, and an electronic signature pad with the snakes around the pen.
Why don't you guys make yourselves useful? Demi-Google Luke for me?
Demi-Google? Really? This is not a thing in the books. Hermes already knew where Luke was when he approached Percy.
Luke, I don't know what to do about him. I mean, I've tried reaching out, but the kid's angry, he's resentful, and he holds a grudge like nobody's business. Just like his mother, come to think of it.
I'm sorry, I don't think I heard you correctly. Because it sounded like you said that Luke gets his angry and resentful nature from his mother. You know, May Castellan. The woman who made a peanut butter sandwich, a pitcher of Kool-Aid, and a batch of cookies every day for 12 years on the off chance that that would be the day her runaway son would come back. Nope, that's actually what you said? Well, okay then.
You're also gonna want one of these. I hold in my hands a matter eliminator trademark pending. Anything you outline with this, not in here, will disappear.
Yet again, not a thing in the books. Hermes' other gift besides the thermos was a bottle of multivitamins which make you immune to magic.
Luke's on a yacht called the Andromeda. It's passing by Chesapeake Beach as we speak.
Thank you.
The trio didn't board the Princess Andromeda in Chesapeake Bay, they boarded it in Long Island Sound. Chesapeake Bay is where they got off. They also didn't know that it was Luke's boat going in.
You see Luke. Please explain to him for me that, parents, we make mistakes sometimes. I mean, he has every right to be angry at me. Just please tell him not to be angry with the world.
Hermes didn't ask Percy to pass along any messages to Luke. Not explicitly, anyway.
If it's one thing I've learned in 3,000 years, it's you can't give up on family.
A line lifted almost directly from the book.
They'll never make it.
Hold on. This whole operation was your idea. Why the vote of no confidence?
Hey, Dad. We're trying to save Camp Half-Blood and rescue a satyr named Grover. And we could really use your help getting to that ship out there.
It's a nice try, big guy, but don't be upset when he doesn't.
It was Percy who summoned the hippocampi, not Tyson. This whole subplot about Poseidon not answering Percy's prayers is not a thing in the book. Also, Percy summoned 3 hippocampi, not just one, and they were only big enough for one rider each. In fact, one hippocampus was bigger than the rest specifically to accommodate Tyson's larger frame. Also, as much as I like this design for the hippocampus, it's not accurate to the book. The whole rainbow fish look was all on the back half, and the front half was that of a white horse. The Princess Andromeda was not a yacht. It was a massive cruise ship, with a 10-story hull and at least a dozen levels of deck on top of that. They had to use a service ladder to board it.
Thank you, friend. Tyson. Come on, buddy, we gotta go. Oh. Want some sugar?
Tyson's bond with his hippocampus was at least a little deeper than this. He named the hippocampus Rainbow, and the two were absolutely distraught at being separated.
Have you seen it? No, man. Did he show it to you? I'll wait till you see it.
Took him long enough to find us.
That's Chris Rodriguez, Ethan Nakamura, and Selena Beauregard.
Whoa! Spoiler alert, guys! Chris being here is fine, but Ethan doesn't join Luke's army until the 4th book, and Selena isn't revealed to have been working for Luke until the 5th book in a pretty heart-wrenching moment.
Tyson, you have to make so much noise. Sorry.
Tyson did alert the guards to the trio's presence, but not with clattering luggage. He had been using his vocal mimicry powers to help Percy and Annabeth listen in on Luke, but Luke heard him and sent guards to capture the intruders. Also, spoiler alert, the fact that Cyclopes have the power to mimic human voices does not come up once in the movie. Luke's army appears to consist of 1 Manticore, 1 Lystragonian, and a bunch of rogue demigods. In the book, we see 12 Lystragonians, 2 Hellhounds, a few Scythian Dracanae, and maybe a handful of rogue demigods. No Manticores appeared until the 3rd book. Also, Lystragonians are never stated to have blue skin. Also, when a Manticore does appear later on, he's shown with a human face, even in beast form.
Okay, where's Grover?
Grover. Oh, Grover, yes.
Right, the satyr. Well, he should be in the Sea of Monsters right about now. I sent him on ahead with some friends. Kind of on a clock.
Luke made no effort to find the fleece for himself. He was actually banking on Percy finding it for him.
Wait, you're not just trying to stop us from getting the fleece, you're trying to use...
I needed to.
Luke didn't explicitly admit to wanting the fleece until the end of the story. It was obvious that he did, but he didn't say anything about it until much later. Also, where are Agrius and Darius, the bear twins that served as Luke's bodyguards throughout the book? What's that? Amalgamated Dynamics made animatronic suits for those characters, but they were scrapped before shooting began? Damn, those guys always seem to get the shaft.
I got something only the fleece can revive. And it's not a tree.
Luke didn't need the fleece to revive Kronos. The fleece would have sped things up, but all he needed was to recruit enough demigods to his side.
I had to crawl through the depths of Tartarus itself.
No, you f***ing didn't! No human has ever gone into Tartarus and lived until Nico D'Angelo, and his first trip into Tartarus won't happen until after the Second Titan War is over.
We met your father. He said that he knows that he made mistakes, and he told us to tell you to not be so angry.
Really? And he couldn't even tell me himself. Does that sound familiar?
This is somewhat condensed compared to the exchange from the book. The mention of Hermes sets Luke off on a rant about how Hermes abandoned him, which leads into the reveal of Kronos being inside the coffin.
Take him to the brig.
Luke didn't put the trio in a brig, he was going to feed them to a draken. Wait, Studio ADI made that one too? Hang on, let me see what it looks like. Yeah, no disrespect to ADI, but maybe it's for the best this one didn't make it in.
Talia was your friend. She sacrificed herself for you.
You're gonna lecture me about Talia? When you're hanging around with him?
Another condensed exchange. When Annabeth calls Luke out for dishonoring Thalia, he goes on a long speech about how the gods dishonored Thalia by letting her die, and how Annabeth is better off joining his army. It's only at the end of that speech that he brings Tyson into it.
I told you he had a brig.
As you probably guessed from me saying that Luke never put them in a brig, this entire brig sequence was made up for the movie.
They're vicious and they're dangerous.
I think it's about time I addressed the elephant in the room. Tyson in the books is described as an infant Cyclops and is strongly coded as intellectually disabled. One of the school bullies even calls him the R slur. While I can see why some aspects of that might be problematic, I find it weird how half-hearted the movie is about carrying it over. Both this scene and the Capitol building scene from earlier suggest that he's about on that same level, but in a lot of dialogue scenes, he just comes off as a slightly dim-witted teenager. I can understand wanting to smooth out any rough edges the character may have, and if that's what they had done, I might even take a sin off. But as it is, it feels more like they've just erased that aspect of the character unless they think it would be funny. It doesn't help that the movie has also completely stripped him of his skill with crafting and technology, making him come across as less capable overall. Annabeth didn't bring a sprig from the tree on the quest. In fact, as nice as it is for the audience to have a visual indicator of the status of Thalia's tree, the characters had no way of knowing how long the tree had left while they were in the Sea of Monsters. They had an estimate when they left camp, but traveling through the Sea of Monsters threw off their perception of time, and without something like this, they were blindsided by how little time was left when they returned to the mainland.
I think I'm gonna vomit. Yep.
Tyson was never shown getting seasick at any point. It's kind of weird, they omitted his car sickness, but gave him seasickness instead, and did nothing with it despite the entire movie taking place at sea.
Go to the lifeboat.
This is not how the escape sequence went. After escaping the security detail of Arius and 2 hypnotized security guards, they ran to a lifeboat together, with more monsters and guards hot on their tail.
Join me, Percy.
Luke actually made this offer back in the stateroom, to both Percy and Annabeth. He also sweetened the pot quite a bit, offering to fund Annabeth's architecture projects and to buy Percy's mother a better home. This never happened. Percy does admit that Tyson was clumsy in school, but it never came up on their quest. While Percy can walk on water, as seen in The Son of Neptune, Luke cannot.
Smart.
Goddess of Wisdom's daughter, remember?
Funny of you to say that, considering the idea of using the thermos to propel the lifeboat actually came from Seaweed Brain over here.
We will resurrect you, Lord Kronos. You will know vengeance. And the Olympians who scorned us will know death.
The Olympians are immortal. With very specific exceptions, they can't die. The best Kronos would be able to do is imprison the Olympians the same way that they did the Titans.
I was in the mountains one day, and some campers, Boy Scouts, showed up. And when they saw me, they screamed. They ran.
This did not happen in any capacity. The book conveyed Tyson's insecurities by showing characters picking on him. Both at Merryweather Prep, where he's ridiculed by the school bullies for being a mentally challenged, filthy homeless kid, and at Camp Half-Blood, where everyone hates him for being a Cyclops.
I'm pretty sure I smiled.
Where the f*** did this come from? Tyson didn't get any joy out of being seen as a monster in the book, and the movie doesn't do anything with this idea either. So what's the point of this line?
He seems okay. I mean, I really don't get what your problem with him is.
Because you don't know what I know about them.
The monsters they fought on Half-Blood Hill were not Cyclopes. It was a horde of Hellhounds and the Three Furies. What actually happened was that a Cyclops captured them in Brooklyn by using his vocal mimicry to split them up. Annabeth blames that Cyclops for Thalia's death because she believes that they would have made it to camp in time if not for the delay he caused. I can totally understand why they felt the need to condense that story like this, but it's still an inaccuracy.
What is that?
It's the Sea of Monsters.
They didn't enter the Sea of Monsters in the lifeboat. The lifeboat only took them to Chesapeake Bay, where they stopped at one of Annabeth's old hideouts from when she was traveling with Luke and Thalia. This is where they fought the Hydra, and subsequently met up with Clarice's ship, the CSS Birmingham, which they then rode into the Sea of Monsters. Also, there were no spontaneous clouds when they entered the Sea of Monsters. The water glittered a more brilliant green, and the wind smelled metallic like a storm was brewing, but no mention of clouds.
Why are we stopping?
I should have used two hands.
You think?
Again, this didn't happen. In fact, it was actually Annabeth who caused them to lose the thermos by letting all the wind out when trying to escape Charybdis.
Tell me those aren't sharks.
Those aren't sharks.
Charybdis is not wearing her braces, though she does seem to have improved her dental hygiene since her teeth are looking much less mossy than in the book.
Percy! It's not working!
The Sea of Monsters might not be in Poseidon's domain.
Yeah, no. Percy's powers totally work in the Sea of Monsters. The only reason he struggled against the waters of Charybdis was because the raw force she was applying to the water was too much for him to fight against. The trio were not swallowed by Charybdis.
You idiots! Better keep my electrical grid up and running or I'll plug your heads into it!
Neither were Clarice and her ship. The trio met up with her back in Virginia, where she killed the Hydra for them.
Nice ship.
Yeah, my dad's got tons of this stuff left over from wars throughout history. It's either this or a Huey from Vietnam. I figured a boat would be a little more practical.
How? Pretty much every obstacle the characters encounter in both the book and the movie would be easy to avoid if you had access to a helicopter. That's probably why Clarice wasn't offered a helicopter in the book, because if she had, there wouldn't be much reason for a quest.
What's going on?
Pretty much exactly what you think goes on inside of his stomach.
Charybdis actually regurgitates any inedible objects that she swallows, which, if the Odyssey is anything to go by, includes boats. The people on those boats might be a different story, but the boats themselves don't get digested.
That really is the worst way to die.
Reardon!
Hey movie, if you think naming a background character after the author will win my favor, you are sorely mistaken. If anything, such empty pandering is a sin in and of itself.
Wait, your crew is zombies?
Well, they prefer dead Confederate sailors whose lives have been given in tribute to Ares.
The Confederate zombies never had an issue with the word zombie. This is just an excuse to drag the political correctness joke out even farther.
Gun is hot, Captain. Locked and loaded.
Aim it at that meat grinder!
Clarice did attempt to shoot at Charybdis, but from the outside, in an attempt to kill her before she could swallow the ship.
Wait, you want to shoot that thing with this?
Well, do you have a better idea? Because now would be the time.
Well, why don't we give her a stomachache? We'll escape through the gut.
Clarice never listened to any of Percy's or Annabeth's ideas until much later in the story, not even begrudgingly. As you can imagine, this caused a lot of problems. Clarice fired several shots at Charybdis, but none of them had any effect. The only one to actually hit her only succeeded in chipping a tooth, and the rest were swallowed and regurgitated back at the ship, knocking them straight into Scylla's territory.
Hey, where's Ignite?
Oh, now you miss Ignite? Well, we ran into Scylla, that multi-headed Hydra thing. You said, I got this. Famous last words.
Scylla is only given an offhand mention in the movie, but she actually made a full appearance in the book. She ate some of the zombie crew, and almost ate Percy too, but he managed to fight his way out and land back in the water, where Annabeth picked him up on a lifeboat. Also, how did you end up in Charybdis' stomach if you got attacked by Scylla? Scylla and Charybdis are on opposite sides of the strait, so sailing through Scylla's territory would put you outside of Charybdis' territory. Also, I think now is a good time to mention that Clarice was invited to bring 2 other campers on her quest, but chose to go it alone to prove her worth to her father. No mention is made of that anywhere in the movie. Nor any mention of the fact that Percy and Annabeth were expelled from camp by Tantalus for sneaking out. And finally, scene does not contain peanut butter sandwiches.
Heading
northwest.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I'm sure about that. Why, do you have a problem?
Yeah, you got a problem?
Look, I know this sounds insane, but it's kind of like my dyslexia, but instead of being able to read Greek, I can see map lines.
Percy discovered this ability way before entering the Sea of Monsters. In fact, he first realized it all the way back in Chesapeake Bay.
30, 31, 75, 12.
Wait, that's the numbers
From the crazy eyeless taxi drivers. They're coordinates.
Wow, they really dumbed down Percy here. Book Percy figured this out before even proposing the quest.
Polyphemus lives in an amusement park?
What the f***? We just got done with the Charybdis segment, and we've already arrived at Polyphemus' island? What happened to literally everything that happened in between? You know, the perilous voyage through the Sea of Monsters? What the f***ing movie is named after? Okay, let's go down the list. After encountering Scylla, Clarice's ship explodes due to the stress on the engine, setting Annabeth and Percy adrift on a lifeboat. They don't meet back up with Clarice again until landing on Polyphemus' island. Percy and Annabeth make landfall at an island spa resort run by the witch Circe. Percy is turned into a guinea pig, but is turned back by one of Hermes' vitamins, along with f***ing Blackbeard. Percy and Annabeth then escape the island on the Queen Anne's Revenge, while Blackbeard takes revenge on Circe. They sail past one of Hephaestus' forges, and the island of the Sirens. Percy plugs his ears with wax, but Annabeth wants to hear the song and has Percy tie her to the mast so she can safely listen. Of course, Seaweed Brain over here forgot to take her knife away, so she cut herself free and nearly swam to her death. And in the interim between these misadventures, they saw a bunch of monsters just casually swimming in the water around them.
But the goddess Circe thought building an amusement park on top of it was a good idea.
I just told you guys that Circe had her own island separate from Polyphemus. And that island was a spa, not an amusement park. Are we sure the Golden Fleece is on this island? Because this island looks pretty dead to me. Polyphemus' island in the book was described as looking like a Caribbean postcard, with green fields and white beaches. If you really wanted to do this amusement park thing, you could have at least added some plant overgrowth to make it look like the fleece is doing its job. Polyphemus' cave had much more of a man cave type of vibe to it in the book. No, I am not kidding.
I haven't had a decent meal since those half-bloods you brought. And this stupid fleece is supposed to lure satyrs.
This is not how Polyphemus dresses. For most of the book, he's shown wearing a purple t-shirt from World Sheep Expo 2001. The only other thing we see him wearing is a baby blue kilt and shoulder wrap made from discarded tuxedos, which he wears for his wedding day. Yeah, we'll get to that. Also, Polyphemus is not described as having tattoos.
Why are you wearing a dress? I'm having a really bad day. The guy's half blind. He thinks I'm a Cyclops chambermaid.
Hey, you think this is embarrassing? The real Grover had to disguise himself as a Cyclops bride. Yes, Polyphemus was planning to marry Grover. Grover, for his part, managed to delay the wedding some by unraveling his bridal train every night. And it got delayed even further when Clarice outed him as a satyr and he decided to marry Clarice instead. No, I'm not joking.
Now things are so bad I even had to eat my own sheep. The whole flock!
What the hell, dude? You've been a shepherd for 3,000 years. Surely you would have a sustainable mutton harvesting routine to give yourself a steady supply of food and let half-bloods and satyrs be an occasional treat. I mean, you did in the book. When you thought one of your sheep had gone fat, you declared that you'd have him for breakfast.
Smells like half-bloods.
Polyphemus didn't wear the golden fleece on his back. He draped it over the branches of a tree, guarded by a flock of carnivorous sheep. Also, the fleece doesn't look like that. It looks like, well, a golden fleece. Or a Letterman jacket when exposed to the mist. But not like this.
My name's Tyson. How are you? These guys are my friends, so I was hoping maybe we could talk. You know, Cyclops to Cyclops.
Tyson never attempted to reason with Polyphemus. As soon as he arrived on the island, he was chucking rocks at him.
Hey, not nice.
You're no Cyclops. You're a traitor to your kind.
Polyphemus did say this in the book, but only after Tyson had attacked him on Percy's behalf.
I think you've got something in mind. This
game of hot potato never happened in the book. In fact, the fleece is described as weighing 60 or 70 pounds, so I don't think this would have even been possible. The plan at first was for Annabeth to distract Polyphemus by putting on her invisibility cap and claiming to be nobody, while Percy freed Grover and Clarice. But then Polyphemus captured Annabeth, so all three of them attacked him together to rescue her. Then once Polyphemus was subdued, Tyson just grabbed the fleece off of the tree. The carnivorous sheep didn't bother him because to them he smelled just like Polyphemus. Oh, you were so close, movie. Polyphemus did drop Annabeth on the cave floor at one point, but she was badly injured by the impact. Grover had to carry her to safety, and she needed healing from the Golden Fleece.
Hey, yo, Clancy's! Huh? I quit!
Like I said before, it was Clarice who outed Grover as a satyr.
You're dead. I'm gonna kill all of you. Do you hear me?
This is not how they escaped Polyphemus. For one, Polyphemus actually smashed this boulder trying to throw it at Annabeth. For two, Polyphemus has been using that rock as a front door for thousands of years, so it wouldn't make sense to trap him with it. Tyson knocked Polyphemus into the chasm separating Polyphemus's regular sheep farm from the carnivorous sheep, and even then he was chucking rocks at them as they sailed away.
Yes. Well done.
Hey, Luke, you're way too early. You're supposed to wait for them to get back to Miami Beach so that Clarice can fly back to camp with the fleece. Otherwise, you know, you'd have gotten the fleece and revived Kronos 2 years too early.
You do it for me. No!
Tyson did have a fake-out death, but it actually happened much earlier. Notice how I haven't said anything about what Tyson did between the Birmingham exploding and the battle on Polyphemus' island? Yeah, he was below deck trying to fix the engine when the explosion happened, and was presumed dead. Luke never got the fleece. Because, you know, if he had, then he would have revived Kronos 2 years too early.
Down, boy.
Manticores are not animalistic beasts. In fact, Dr. Thorne, the manticore that appears in the third book, is quite intelligent.
Percy, if Kronos comes back, then that's it. Game over. Percy.
I never called him brother. All I ever wanted was a brother, but I was too wrapped up in myself.
Percy did express this sentiment, but not only was it far less clunky of a line in the book, it was also not during such a high-stakes moment. It was during one of the lulls in their voyage, between the explosion of the Birmingham and washing up on Cersei's island.
Forget the Oracle. You're worried about your destiny? Then write a new one.
This speech and everything it stands for is completely made up for the movie. In the books, destiny is ironclad, and the characters all realize this.
I mean, who voted me leader?
Yeah, no. Clarice did not and would never have conceded leadership of the quest to Percy. She was under a lot of pressure from Ares to not let him outshine her, and he even threatened to beat her if she failed him. Yeah.
Lord Kronos, he who was betrayed by his sons, hear now the words of one betrayed by his father. I bid you, rise.
Wait, you're not actually going to... Riptide actually glowed a little bit all the time. It's just a property of the celestial bronze that she's made out of, nothing to do with Kronos. Percy didn't fight Luke on Polyphemus' island, or Cersei's island for that matter. Their fight in the second book took place on the Princess Andromeda. Also, before they started fighting, Percy tricked Luke into confessing to poisoning the tree in front of the entire camp via an iris message.
Hi, brother.
It wasn't Tyson who saved Percy from Luke, it was Chiron and the Centaurs.
The water. It healed me. Son of Poseidon.
And this is not how Tyson came back from his fake-out death. In fact, Tyson is never shown being healed by water the same way Percy is. Tyson was rescued from the explosion by Rainbow, the hippocampus, and the two of them had been searching for Percy ever since.
Thank you, brother.
This is a nice moment and all, but do you think it can wait until the Titan Lord isn't actively reforming? The book saved this moment until after the danger had passed, when Tyson helped Percy and Annabeth win a chariot race. Percy proudly thanked his baby brother for helping him with both the race and the quest. You did it. You actually did it. You resurrected Kronos in the second f***ing movie. Just when I thought you had already done the stupidest thing possible, you went and did the one thing the entire series is centered on preventing. In the second movie. That is truly an Epimethean feat. And you didn't even do it right. For one, Kronos was not revived by the Golden Fleece. Like I said before, Clarice was already on her way back to camp by the time Luke caught up with them, and it was kept safely at Camp Half-Blood from then on. Kronos was revived by the collective pledges of loyalty from every demigod that joined Luke's army. In fact, Ethan Nakamura was the last demigod that Luke needed to bring back Kronos. And for 2, Kronos did not come back in his full Titan form. He used Luke as a host body. Also, 5 sins for turning Kronos into Satan. At least this time, Kronos is actually a villainous character. But still, you do realize that an evil god can appear in a mythology movie without looking like Satan, right?
My lord, it's Luke. Luke Castellan. Your great-grandson.
My favorite.
Kronos never ate Luke. Like I said, Kronos used Luke as a host when he came back from Tartarus, so he couldn't have eaten him even if he wanted to. Which he would have no reason to because, yet again, Kronos only ate his children because he was trying to subvert a prophecy. Kronos also never ate Grover. Riptide didn't have any special effects on Kronos. In fact, whenever Percy tried using her against him, she just bounced off due to Luke having the Curse of Achilles.
The Cursed Blade.
Riptide was not the cursed blade from the prophecy. That was a very clever piece of misdirection, so of course the movie dumbed it down. The actual cursed blade was Annabeth's knife, which was given to her as a sign of Luke's promise to her. And because Luke broke that promise, the knife was considered cursed.
You want to know who gave me this sword? The god that killed you with it in the first place. My father.
Oh, for f***'s sake, we've gone from making true but misleading statements about the sword's ownership to flat out making up. Riptide originally belonged to the sea nymph Pleione, who gave her to her daughter, the Hesperide Zoe, who then gave the sword to Heracles for him to use in his fight with Ladon. It wasn't until much later that Poseidon would acquire the sword.
Half-blood. Just in time for dinner.
Yeah, this did not happen. After Chiron rescued Percy and his friends, Luke just sailed away, escaping scot-free yet again.
Percy.
Annabeth! No. Oh, no. No.
At least I'll be with Talia and Elysium.
This is not how Annabeth nearly died in the book. As I said before, she was dropped on her head by Polyphemus and badly injured from the fall.
No. Come here. Give me the fleece. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on.
Yeah, no. The Golden Fleece started healing Annabeth's injuries almost instantly. There was no fake-out delay.
This was your quest.
Well, I couldn't have done it without you.
Well, I think you should be the one who gets to do the honors.
The movie completely skips over how they got back to camp. In the book, they took some hippocampi to Miami Harbor, then Clarice flew home on a plane while the rest rode back on centaurs. There's the hero's welcome Percy missed out on in the first movie.
You know what? We don't need these anymore.
You know, this would have been a great time for Tyson to tell Percy about his prayer to Poseidon. In the book, we find out near the end that after Tyson was attacked by a sphinx, he prayed to Poseidon for help. And not long after that, Tyson was picked up by Meriwether Prep, where he met Percy. You could have retooled that story to fit Tyson's new backstory. Also, now would have been a good time for Tyson to give Percy the Watch Shield. I get that you don't want to create confusion with Luke's shield from the first movie, but... well, that's on you for giving Luke that shield in the first place.
What I meant was, finding out you have a destiny is a lot like finding out you have a half-brother who's a Cyclops. Might not be as bad as you think.
Yeah, Percy was decidedly not at peace with the prophecy at this point. It was still a major source of uncertainty and dread for him, especially since the fates had warned him of a coming death. Oh wait, you cut that part out too!
Percy!
Grover didn't call Percy away from breakfast. He actually woke Percy up from bed.
Percy! The fleece!
What happened?
At first, Percy thought it was Annabeth lying beneath the tree, since he didn't recognize her with her armor on. It wasn't until he got closer that he realized Annabeth was the one in the armor, and that he didn't know the girl under the tree. Also, I don't hear anyone suggesting that what's happening here was part of Kronos' plan, even though this absolutely was, and everyone could see it.
What's your name?
I'm Talia, daughter of Zeus.
Roll credits.
Another living child of the eldest gods.
I said roll credits. That was the last line of the book. You can stop now.
Maybe it wasn't me.
Guys, the implications of that line are self-explanatory. You don't need to...
Maybe the Oracle meant Talia all along.
Stop! We get it! Just end the movie already! I've had enough torture! Lightning round. One bonus sin for every time they say Talia instead of Thalia.
Did you mean for Thalia's eyes to change color? Haha.
No, Talia, they'll kill you.
Her name was Talia. As Talia lay dying, the story of Talia's bravery inspires me.
A barrier from Talia's tree.
Don't say.
3 millennia of gods and demigods, you think that someone would have come up with a cure for Talia's tree.
That is not gonna cure Talia's tree so much as get us all killed.
The golden fleece can heal any living person or thing, including Talia's tree.
Unless Talia's tree can be cured. To save Talia's tree and therefore our home.
Talia was your friend. She sacrificed herself for you.
You're gonna lecture me about Talia?
His kind killed Talia.
At least I'll be with Talia and release him. Here you go, Talia. I'm Talia, daughter of Zeus.
Maybe the Oracle meant Talia all along.
Lady, running down to the riptide, taken away to the dark side. I wanna be your left-hand man. I love you when you're singing that song.